Right. By 2050, the population of this particular demographic we're about to talk about is going to hit around 850 million. That is by 2050. It is a population that if nothing is done to leverage on their potential, then the continent, the world, could actually miss out on a big opportunity. As we speak about this, there are people from different walks of life who are trying to do something about this population to ensure that the potential of these young people is actually tapped, and of course they are actually put to good use. I'm not alone on this particular session on One-on-One. I'm here with a very important guest who I'll be telling you about in just a while. But if you're hearing this voice for the first time, if you're seeing me for the first time, as always, my name is Eugene Anangwe, and I want to welcome you to this important conversation that I'm going to have with Powell Hart. He's the founder of Kalijah Root Foundation. Powell, thank you so much for making time. A while ago, you were very rigorously involved in a session that actually pulled together across a number of young people from different walks of life as far as entrepreneurship is concerned. We will talk a bit about that. But first of all, the Kalijah Foundation, Roots Foundation. Talk to us a bit about that. Why and what do you aim to achieve with this foundation? Right.
So thank you, Eugene, for having me. Well, Kalijah Root Foundation is one that was birthed from a place of, from a dream, basically, to see Africa optimize its human resources. And when I say human resources, I mean its young people. I come from a country called Nigeria, which is the most populous nation in Africa. We're heading to about 250 million people, and the youth give account for over 60% of that population. And I want to see an Africa where the potential of the youth is being optimized, because we have intelligent young people in this continent. And the thing about intelligence is that if it is not being harnessed or if it's not being guided properly, it could go positively or negatively. So we want to be conscious about the future of Africa and the kind of young people we want to produce for the rest of the world to enjoy. Because we understand that once we are conscious about the kind of people we want to raise, we will raise what we want. And what we want are people that will add value, young people that will make the continent proud, and young people that will bring back the pride to Africa, and also liberate Africa economically, with our arts, with our knowledge base, and with our capacity as human beings. Use it to, increase our value, both economically, morally, and otherwise. Yeah,
very powerful indeed. But there are those who actually feel that a focus has been put on young people, especially when it comes to the buzzword now called capacity building. Absolutely. Everybody wants to do capacity building for young entrepreneurs, young people. From where you sit at your foundation, what sets you apart from the rest? What have they been missing in terms of fixing the capacity issue for young people that you come in and say, we actually are tapping into that gap?
Yes. So basically, I'm a young person myself. I'm not that old. So I'm also a capacity builder myself by profession. I'm a trainer, and I train along the lines of management, oil and gas, IT skills. And in no other time than now, what I think makes us stand out is our strategy towards capacity building. We're coming with IT strategies to help catalyze business processes, and young people are the hedge of those, this industry, IT. So I think in no other time than now is it impossible to catch them young, catch them while they are still evolving, and you can mold them into the next Bill Gates of tomorrow. The Mike Zuckerbergs of tomorrow can come from Africa. It can come from any village in Africa. So we are deliberate about the measures we're taking. So when they say capacity building, we're not just going randomly, we're very specific. We're going with our IT skills, using it to help see how we can move and catalyze business processes in every part of Africa, and as well as see how we can harness people's entrepreneurial skills. Whatever you are into, is it farming, is it sewing, is it designing, whatever, even music, whatever it is that young Africans know how to do, we're going to consciously push IT at the forefront to help get it to the rest of the world. Right. And also, in the session we had, one of the speakers spoke about the traditional market setting. And if you know Africa, Africa is a place that is known for having traditional marketplaces. And we know how our ancestors, how many people they were able to reach in those times. So now with IT strategy, we can reach the world. Yeah. And it's time for young Africans to start to tap into that space.
Yeah. When you talk about it's time for young Africans to tap into that space of IT and IT solutions, I always feel that there's a conversation that we must have, if we still haven't started having, whereby Africans do not just be consumers of the IT solutions that are coming up. And sadly, that is the case. A lot of the AI solutions that are coming up are being developed outside, only for us on the continent of Africa to be the consumers. How do we change this narrative? How do we change this?
So the thing is that, and one of the things I want is to consciously build an Africa that will be a giver, that will be a provider, that will be a creator, and not just a user and a consumer. Yeah. So these are the things we need to be conscious of. We have a lot of young Africans who are doing exploits in the diaspora, and I used to be one of them. It took a lot for me to relocate to Africa. So what I'm saying is that we can come back and add value to this continent and create Africa-centric AIs, African usable AIs, modify these things to suit our own realities here. And who knows, it might suit the realities of the rest of the world, and we can export these things. I think it's just a mentality thing. It's nothing really. I know a lot of Africans who are in Facebook and Meta, Google and whatnot. They have the capacity. Even in Lagos, Nigeria, we have a lot of unicorn companies that are coming up, young people doing big things. Yeah. So I think it's just a matter of time, and they will start seeing how hard we're going in building IT infrastructure from Africa and exporting to the rest of the world.
Yeah. Talking of a matter of time, a lot of young people have been thought not to be interested in some of these things that you talk about, and a lot of their interest, according to those who have somehow lost the hope in terms of focusing on them. I've always said these young people just want the easy life. They want the quick fixes, and they don't want to go the long road. If it is interest on social media, maybe it is just for the fun and all that. As a trainer yourself, as a mentor yourself, as a capacity builder yourself, what are the trends that you're seeing? Is this the case to date? And what are you seeing on the ground?
So sometimes the challenge is communication. Sometimes it all boils down to communication. Like I explained earlier about the generational gaps that we have in this country or in this continent. And as a result of generational gap, communication becomes a problem, trying to get intergenerational from the baby boomers to the Gen Zs or to the millennials. It has been a challenge. So sometimes some of them are not even aware that those opportunities are there. So I think we need to harmonize at this point so that young people can be aware of these opportunities and embrace them and understand that everything is not a quick fix. As you said, sometimes we need to delay our gratification and gradually watch things grow over time. We're in changing times, and they describe this generation as a microwave generation where they want things very quick. So I think we need to communicate and make the awareness known that these opportunities are there, and whether it's in their area of interest or not, there are ways we can modify these things. We can just start from somewhere and keep moving. When you have the capacity, then you can now choose what you want. Choose what you want in the end. So I think communication will go a long way in addressing that need.
You've spoken of the intergenerational challenge, and a lot of that somehow has affected many young people in terms of even achieving their full potential. They argue and say those people at those positions don't get us, they don't understand us. And now we have a Gen Z that actually feels most misunderstood. How do we bridge the gap in terms of the intergenerational gap to ensure that young people are indeed experiencing their full potential?
Wow. So now, one of the problems in Africa is this generational gap thing. And generational gap in the sense that, there's no knowledge sharing. There's no knowledge sharing from the baby boomers to the Gen X to the millennials to the Gen Zs. We need to constantly share knowledge, pass down the knowledge. And in the process of sharing knowledge, we're able to understand each other better, and we're able to create a new knowledge, which is going to be a hybrid knowledge that has been birthed out of collaboration of intergenerations. So with that, we'll be able to understand each other better and together navigate the pathway to the future. So these are things that we need to do deliberately. I mean, I've lived in the West, and one of the things I realized when I moved to the West was that when an adult is listening to a young child, they listen with their full attention. They don't look at it as a baby, he doesn't know what he's talking about. They try to listen to the point you're making. I think we can borrow that and modify it to our realities and have a discussion intergenerationally. And I believe we can arrive at a point of equilibrium and navigate towards the desired future for Africa.
Describe for us the African way of listening to a young generation.
The African way of listening. You know, Africa, we're very deep in culture. And in some cultures in Africa, you cannot even look at your father in the eye. You understand? So maybe there's certain things we can tweak a little bit. I'm not saying we should dispose of our culture. It was Sheikh Mohammed, ruler of Dubai, that said, embrace change. But while you embrace change, don't forget your originality. So we can retain our originality and modify some of our cultures and traditions to be able to help us thrive through present times, because sometimes some of our, culture can be a hindrance for us to progress. So I think we should not discard but modify a bit to progress.
Right. Let's come back to today's event, or the event that happened here. A youth empowerment skills acquisition session. Take us through the idea behind it. What was the brain or the thought process of setting up such a thing, and here in Rwanda for that matter?
So the idea behind this was, I was going to do something that was within my reach, something that I could guarantee the quality that was going to be behind it. I mean, you saw the caliber of resource persons that were here today. We had people from different countries, from the UK, from Ghana, from Nigeria, from also all over the place. So we were able to gather those guys to help distill the timely knowledge that young people would need to thrive through these times. And why Rwanda? You see, for me, Rwanda is a very interesting location because it's a place that has been able to build from the ashes deliberately the country that they desire. And Rwanda, sometimes I overheard some people, some tourists, they called it Wakanda. They say it's the only African country where everything works. So for me, I just thought that with the young population in Rwanda, it's a good place to start, and I needed people that would appreciate what I'm bringing to the table. I mean, we've done stuff like this in Nigeria, but for me, Rwanda is close to my heart, and I just thought this would be a good place to start in the east side of Africa. And we intend to spread across other countries in Africa as well.
Describe for me, just briefly, the caliber of the students you had in the room, the entrepreneurs in the room.
Wow, the caliber of students I had, we went for a range of between 18 and 30, but the caliber of young people I saw today were very enthusiastic, very smart, people who I could see the hunger in their eyes. They couldn't wait, they can't wait to take over the world. And I think with this kind of young people, without proper guidance, they could swing anyways, but with deliberate and calculated guidance and particular knowledge injected in them, I believe they can do exploits, and the world is not even ready for what they can offer.
Young people within the business space, this is not a new thing, and I'm sure you're not hearing it for the first time from me. Part of the challenges they face, number one, is always access to finance. And I think it's time for us to move the conversation further and try to probably ask ourselves, what are the creative ways of then moving away from this specific, challenge that occurs? It's a recurrent challenge. How do we fix this creatively? Because we're now thinking of a creative solution to our challenges.
Yeah. One of the challenges we have in Africa as entrepreneurs as well is that we don't have access to credit. Unlike your counterparts in the United States or in the UK, they can actually buy a house, with a good mortgage that is very affordable. They can open a business, get a loan. But here we don't really have those access. And I'm not one of the advocates of Africa always stretching a hand out to beg the rest of the world for help. I think at this point, we need to help ourselves. In Africa, we have billionaires, we have millionaires. We can, at this point, see how we can collaboratively help ourselves, because in the end, we need to look at the long game. There's no point of you being a shining light in a dark place, because in the end, you might end up being a target. But if you share from the little you have, just bring a small fraction, just chip it in, and let's see how we can spread the love and help each other. I think by doing that, we will get somewhere. And by doing that, we empower each other and we start to grow, and it has a multiplier effect over time. I believe we Africans, we have everything we need to help ourselves, And if there are agencies or bodies that are willing to collaborate with us, partner with us in growing, why not? But we're not begging.
We're not begging. Yeah. We might not want to beg, yes, but reality on the ground, it seems like that is the trend. Yes. Because if you look at the numbers in terms of even the VC, venture capitalists who are investing, yes, in our startups in Africa, a large percentage is coming from Western nations. Absolutely. If you were to speak to the African philanthropists, the African billionaires, yes, what do you want to tell them today?
Wow, if I was going to speak to them, I would tell them to spread love. To spread the love, because there's so many people. I mean, we calculate the amount of young people in Africa already. There's so many people that your money can go a long way to help. You know, you're in a continent, especially in Nigeria, for example. I mean, I think it was last year, they called it the poverty capital of the world. And to be honest, Nigeria has no business being poor. You understand? So we just need to do the right things, help each other collaboratively, understand that we are the same people, we are one. I'm an advocate of rebranding the black race, personally, because when you think about a black person, I don't want or when you think about Africa, I don't want the first thing that comes to your mind to be poverty, malaria, and all those things, because we are way more than that. Based on what we have on the ground, we can do more for ourselves. So what I can tell to the young billionaires, or most of the billionaires in Africa, is that, lend a hand. Your money can go a long way. Let's help, eradicate poverty from Africa. And me, my own capacity, I don't have all the money in the world, but my mission is to eradicate poverty from Africa, a mine at a time. With the little I have, I know that once I can reach the mines, it will go a long way.
Right. And so you feel if this is not done, if status quo is maintained, if the policy frameworks and conditions remain ambiguous, then what? What do we do then if status quo remains?
So if status quo remains the same, I mean, I don't know about you. I don't know how you feel in this kind of climate, but I don't feel good about it. So we cannot afford to remain the same. We need to change. We need to deliberately improve our policies, improve how we see each other, improve how we love each other. I think in the end, it all boils down to love. It all boils down to love. We Africans, we need to love ourselves more. From the east to the west, from the north to the south, we need to love ourselves more in our countries. Let them know that hunger is not a normal thing. Yeah. Let them know that you see some schools, some government schools, children are sitting on the floor to learn. Let them understand that those sufferings is not normal. Suffering is not made for Africans. Africans we also deserve good things. We also deserve the sweet things of life. We also deserve milk and honey. So our leaders need to understand this. Let them help us. Let's have a good time. Let's have a good life. Right. We deserve it.
We deserve it. I think that's very powerful. We're almost wrapping up this conversation, but it would be very unfair if we do not touch on this, especially on the aspect of inclusion, especially women and girls, in the aspect of entrepreneurship. We've seen, even from the numbers, and the numbers don't lie, especially when it comes to funding. Young women-led entrepreneurial businesses continue to suffer when they're compared to their male-led counterparts. How do we change this? What's happening within your foundation in terms of working on this?
So within my foundation, one of our key goals is women and gender equality and women empowerment. I'm a girl father. I'm a father of 2 girls, so this is very important to me, because I want my girls to grow up in a society where they're not being relegated, where they can add value without being scared. So I think we need to, first of all, sanitize our society, make sure that it's a safe place for women and girls to operate in, our schools, make sure it's safe for them to live and school in, and also our system. We need to have more female role models. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, in recent history, the few women political leaders we've had have not really been the best of examples. We need to promote women who are diligently doing their jobs and doing well. we need to amplify those people and not the slay queens and all that. Because if you look at the social media where our population in Africa of youths, where they engage the most, you see, because of the level of influence, the priorities are not really set right. People are more aspired to look in a certain type of way than, actually building certain types of virtues. We need women who are trying to go to space. We need women who are setting up, big tech, big application companies. We don't need, the role of a woman is just beyond looking good. That's what I'm trying to say. Women are capable of more. You see, a woman naturally is a multitasker. A woman traditionally in the African home will take care of her husband, carry her baby on the back, hold another baby on the hand, still be, pounding the food, making. So that shows you what the woman is actually capable of doing if given the opportunities. So I think as much as possible, we should just, make certain things accessible to women and keep them safe. All women need mostly is safety. And once they have a safe environment they can operate in and access to the things they need to succeed, like education, funding, no harassment. Harassment is a very important area. So with these things, in place, I think women will thrive easily in Africa.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah, I want us to close off by looking at the future in terms of what the trends are showing us. If all is done well, where do you see the future of entrepreneurship? I know AI was talked about. You also touched about it over here. There are those who have fears that this thing is coming to take over, but also the arguments on if used properly, then it would be beneficial. How does the future look like? I know you're not a prophet, but what do you see?
Well, the future I see, for me, I like to see a desirable future. I know sometimes the realities on ground might not be encouraging, but me, I choose the future I want to see. And I've chosen the future I want to see for Africa. It's a future where Africans are more educated. Sometimes some problems or some challenges we have in Africa, sometimes it's a blessing. In our rural areas, there are a lot of people that need education, that need enlightenment. That is an opportunity in itself. And I believe that the more we're able to reach, like with this kind of program we're doing here, we're able to reach more people in different countries, in different rural areas. The more they begin to know, the more capable we'll become, the more empowered we'll become as a people. And as young people in Africa, once we're empowered, the more we're capable of doing. And once we apply what we have learned, once we have applied our IT strategy that is timely in such a time as this, once we understand that AI is not something to be scared of, but is a tool that we can use to achieve our goals, and once we understand that once we ask better questions, that we'll get better answers, it's only natural for us to get better results. And for me, my vision for Africa in the nearest future is that with all things being equal, with my desired vision actualizing, I think Africa is the future.
Africa is the future. Absolutely. Powell Hart, thank you so much for making time.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Eugene. It's been a pleasure being here on your platform.
Thank you.